Stories shape our lives. They connect us, inspire us, and most importantly, they reveal God's work in our hearts. In today's episode, we're diving into the power of storytelling, how your personal story and your creative expression are intertwined in ways that you may not even realize. Whether through music, art, writing, or conversation, your story holds the key to impacting others for Christ. Today, we're going to begin exploring how your creativity becomes a vessel for God's story in your life and the lives of others. So let's talk about the power of story, starting with your own. Today on the Ordered Chaos Club. Welcome back to the Ordered Chaos Club podcast, the place where Christ-centered creatives like you are inspired, connected, and equipped for the journey ahead. At the Ordered Chaos Club, we bring together Jesus-loving creatives who are ready to overcome challenges in their faith and creative work so that we can fully embrace our God-given talents, express our creativity with confidence, and make real progress toward our boldest creative goals this year. I'm Armand, Pastor Fury Sheffy, and you guys, last month in that every episode, we were really trying to focus on community. And today we're kicking off a brand new theme for the month of November. It's the power of story. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be diving deep into how stories shape our creativity, our faith, and the way that we see and impact the world around us. Today, we're going to lay the foundation for this month's conversations by talking about why stories matter, both in your creative life and in your walk with Christ. We're going to explore how creativity helps us express our stories and how sharing those stories with others can truly transform lives. So let's start by talking about storytelling in general. Why do stories even matter at all? We tell ourselves stories in order to live. That's what Joan Didion says. They're stories. They're how we make sense of the world. Whether it's a story in a Bible or a movie on a screen, stories help us to connect the dots. Anthony de Mello says, the shortest distance between a human being and truth is a story. It's these stories that help us see truths about life in ways that facts alone just can't always communicate. In fact, if you think about the Bible, like really think about it, it's actually not a collection of rules. It's not a collection of doctrinal statements. It's a collection of stories. Stories of faith, failure, redemption, stories of God's relentless love for his people. When Jesus wanted to teach people, what did he often do? He told stories. He told parables. Think about the parable of the prodigal son. It's not just a story about a wayward child. It is a powerful reflection of God's grace and forgiveness. It's a story that cuts straight to our hearts. You guys, stories can get past mental walls that people often put up. People will spend a lot of time disagreeing with statements, right? But it's hard to really refute someone's story. The emotions of someone's journey, the true to life challenges, the things that they've faced and ways that they've overcome. All of these are places where people can find themselves, even in the story of someone that they generally wouldn't relate to. They can find themselves in it, and they can relate and connect. And here's the thing. Your story has that same kind of potential. Whether you think your story is dramatic or not, it's yours. And it's crafted by God. And it holds power when you share it. Sometimes we underestimate the impact our story can have because, it's ours. So we think it's ordinary. But trust me, God works through what we see as ordinary to do extraordinary things. And In episodes to come, we're going to go deeper into the importance and impact of stories, as well as you're going to hear stories from other folks who are on what I believe to be some similar journeys as many of you. So when we're talking about story, let's also think about creativity in general, right? A lot of people think storytelling is just about words, maybe writing a book or giving a testimony at church. But storytelling is so much more than that. When you create, whether it's through music or film or painting, even building a business and entrepreneurship, you're telling a story. You're expressing something deep inside of you that God has placed there. Every song that you produce, every canvas that you paint, every film that you shoot, it's all a part of your story. And the beauty of creativity is that it helps us express things that words alone sometimes just can't. Think about it. There are feelings, struggles, victories in all of our lives that are hard to really just put into words. But when you sit down and you create something, you make something, whether it's a beat, a scene in a movie, or a piece of some other art, it all starts to flow. One of my favorite poets, Maya Angelou, says this: "There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." Creativity becomes this outlet for the things God is working in and through you. And even more than that, it becomes a way for others to experience and understand parts of your story. Art connects people to emotion, to ideas, to different journeys. It breaks through walls in ways that we just wouldn't be able to anticipate. Last week in the conversation of this episode with Jariel, I shared about the places where my insecurities, I should say, are often just holding me back. When I came to the Lord, I didn't immediately just embrace creativity as a thing that God was looking to use, but I quickly grabbed a hold of the power of my story. And the truth is, that's because it was the only thing at that point that I knew without a doubt. At that point, my journey simply became finding the right moments to share my story and God's grace on my life. One of the powerful things that He has done has been to give me a gift to be able to even connect, like the things of the Spirit and the things of this world, to be able to see some of the story that He's writing in the Spirit and connected to the experience that we're living in the flesh. I believe staying in touch with this intersection of those two is the way to faithfully live out this life in Christ. And it is that life in Him, in the Spirit, that keeps those connections apparent, so that we can keep our eyes set on the things above and tell the stories here below that God is a loving God in both realms. Your stories, they don't just impact you guys. They have the power to impact everyone around you. You don't always know who's listening or watching, but your story can resonate with someone in a way that changes their life. That's why we need to be bold and sharing it. Maybe you felt like you're not qualified to share your story, or maybe you don't feel like you have the right platform. But remember, God has given each of us a unique journey, and that journey becomes powerful when it's shared in faith. And I'm not always talking about sharing just the testimony of God moving, but sharing your experiences in all realms. God's fingerprints are on it all. Share it with faith and confidence. Michael Margulies says this: "The stories we tell literally make the world. If you want to change the world, you need to change your story." You know, I remember a time when I didn't feel like my story was worth sharing. I was always wondering, who's going to care about my struggles, my victories, if I had any, my creative journey up to that point. But as I found the Lord and as I've shared, I've seen God use it in ways that I could have never imagined. It's not always about the magnitude of your story, but the authenticity of it. So, as we wrap up this first episode on the power of story, I want to leave you with a few questions to reflect on, not just for this next episode to come, but for this whole month. What's your story? How has God been shaping it in your life? Even in ways that you might not have noticed. And what story are you telling yourself about yourself? We'll get into that in further episodes. How can you begin to creatively express your story in your art, your music, your writing, whatever that is? And who do you believe might need to hear that story today? Over the next few weeks, we're going to be diving even deeper into this idea of storytelling and creativity. You're going to hear how they intersect and how they can transform both you and those who experience your work. But for now, I encourage you to take some time to think about how God has been writing your story and how he might be calling you, yes, you, to share it. Thanks for joining me today as we kick off this important conversation. If this sparks something in you, I want to invite you to go and take action. Don't wait. Share your story this week. Maybe it's with a friend, or maybe it's through something creative you're working on, right? Maybe you need to create some art that reflects what happened to you and your story in different ways. Whatever it is, step out in faith. You never know the impact your story could have. And hey, if you're looking for a community to help you in that, to walk alongside you in this journey, in this process, don't forget, check out the Ordered Chaos Club at orderedchaosclub.com. It is where creatives like you are encouraged and equipped to share their God-given stories. And hey, wherever you're listening or watching, why don't you go ahead and leave us a review, like the channel that you're on, subscribe to it. If you're on YouTube, hit the little bell so you don't miss any of the episodes. And we would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment or maybe even a question. Any questions that we have on any of the platforms, we'll make sure that we work on answering those in our final episode each month. Be blessed, be a blessing, and keep creating for God's glory.